Dennis, my friend, I wanted to talk to you about, what I talked to you about at Socrates in the City back in December. What is your sense of where we are in this country with this issue? Where are we? What is going on with Israel? I mean, while you and I are talking right now, it looks like we could be scratching at the door of World War III. Unbelievable to say that with a straight face. What is your sense of where we are and the future of Israel, the near-term future?
Well, it's such a large question. You could actually go out, have lunch, and I'll just be winding down. Evil concentrates on the Jews. The third edition of a book I wrote 40 years ago is coming out, Why the Jews, Explaining Anti-Semitism. Unfortunately, Simon & Schuster thought the time was right to put out yet another edition, unfortunately. But this is really important for non-Jews to understand. The Jews are, the cliche is accurate. Jews are the canary in the mine. The canary dies, there's poison fumes in your mine. The Jews are killed, there are poison fumes in your society or in your world. By the way, it's completely independent of any individual Jew. There are some despicable Jews. There are some angelic Jews, like every group on earth. So the issue is divine. The issue isn't Jewish behavior as such. Whether or not Jews act according to the Torah, which is how we're supposed to act, evil hates the Jew. Evil hates atheist Jews as much as Orthodox Jews. Okay? So what we're seeing today is if you can't identify Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Iranian regime as today's Nazis, it's your moral failing. It's as simple as that.
And you're talking about, for example, the lunacy, and that's a nice word, the evil of the United Nations condemning Israel more than it condemns all of these truly despicable, wicked nation states, Iran, North Korea. The only explanation for this, and I remember it was Michael Brown years ago. It's got to be in the 90s. He spoke at Yale. I went up to visit, and he was talking about anti-Semitism and how it is everywhere. You know, the white supremacists, the Aryan nationalists hate the Jews. The black nationalists hate the Jews. What is going on? What's going on, obviously, is hatred of the Jews is a hatred of God. It's a hatred of God's people. It is a constant throughout history. And here's the good news. It proves God to me, just as much as, was it to Frederick the Great who said, somebody said, give me proof of God. And he said, the Jews. You could easily say hatred of the Jews. It proves God because there's no other logical explanation for the hatred from every quarter of the Jews.
You are as kindred a spirit to me as any human that I know. I mean, that, for whatever it means, is a very big compliment. You so get it, and so most people don't get it. I would say that most Jews don't get it. Most Jews are baffled. But you'll love this. In light of what you said, you will love this. Are you ready? So the Talmud, which is as large as the Encyclopedia Britannica, it is the second holiest work in Judaism after the Bible. It's in Aramaic. It's about 1,800 years old. And it's mostly law, but it's a lot of philosophy and theology. So the rabbis asked, why are the Jews hated? And you will love this. I know you so well. So this is the answer. And by the way, there's in this gigantic 50-volume work that there's just like 5 sentences on anti-Semitism because it wasn't complex. And the rabbi said they used a play on Hebrew words. You don't have to know Hebrew to see it's a play. The 2 words are Sinah and Sinai. They sound almost identical, correct? Sinah means hatred. Sinai means Sinai. The Sinah, the hatred, comes from Sinai. The Jews got the 10 Commandments at Sinai, and the world hates them for introducing this to the world. Just what you were saying now.
Well, and listen, as I say, it proves God to me. This irrational hatred.
That's right.
What
It
is your
does.
sense of those who are harshly critical of Israel's response to what is happening over there?
I have two immediate ones. One is Douglas Murray's great line, is another great non-Jew who gets it about the world, about good and evil. He has a great line that Israel is the only country in the world that is not allowed to win a war. Brilliant line. It's absolutely correct. And ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. Secondly, was the United States, Britain, for example, Canada and others who bombed Germany during the Nazi era, were they the villains? Well, by the way, on Tucker Carlson's show, Churchill was depicted as the villain. There is an inversion of moral thinking that is almost brand new in American history. That the bad is the good and the good is the bad. Churchill is the villain and Hitler was the victim. That is essentially what was being said on Tucker Carlson by a man that Tucker Carlson said is the greatest popular historian in America. I don't remember his name. It's irrelevant. Something has happened, and I don't know what it is. The left has crushed normal moral norms. I think they're part of the villainy because people who think this way generally are college graduates.
There are very few things where I really don't know what to say. I can't comprehend these things.
You do know what to say. If anybody knows, you do. I just want to let everybody know. I mean, my admiration for you is very profound. You have courage and you have clarity, which is the two things that are critical. I have said in speeches for 40 years that the verse that evangelicals often quote in their support for Israel, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, from Genesis, God to Abraham. I wrote actually a column on this about 10 years ago. I said, you don't have to be a believer to know that that is true. Those who curse the Jews end up cursed. Those who bless the Jews end up blessed. It is not a coincidence that the most blessed nation for the last 200 years has blessed Israel. Israel is only in existence 75, but they blessed the Jews. This country has been a blessing to Jews. And I always added, always in every speech to Jews and Christians, that should there ever be a day when America abandons the Jews and Israel, it will no longer be blessed. But I think we're seeing it. We're going through bad stuff in the United States at the very same time that its elite is profoundly hostile to the only nation on earth that is targeted for annihilation. There is no example on earth of a country targeted for annihilation except the Jewish country, the only one the size of New Jersey. And people wonder who's right.
It is staggering. And I think part of the reason it's important for us to stare into the abyss of the evil of the Nazis and the Holocaust is because it reminds us that evil is real. Anybody who is so naive as to think that somehow we've transcended this, what do you make? How do you make human sense, any kind of rational sense of what happened in Germany under the Nazis? To me, the only antidote to that evil is God. And I'm just kind of amazed at people who can look at that and somehow not come to that conclusion. I don't know. I think that they have to not think about it.
That's why your voice is so important. In my book, Why the Jews, these things are addressed constantly. Of the unique nature, there is no other way of explaining it. You know, people say, well, one of the reasons Jews are hated is because they say they're the chosen people. And that is true, by the way. That is one of the reasons.
Yeah.
But here, you will love this. If you never heard me say this, I know you so well, you will love this. So whenever I say to people, you know, one of the reasons the Jews are hated is because they say they're the chosen people. People go, yeah. Now think about it. Jews are among the tiniest groups on planet Earth. So I often point out the Japanese believe they get the sun before the rest of humanity. That's the land of the rising sun. The sun is on their flag because they get the sun first. Does anybody hate the Japanese for thinking they get the sun first? No. You know what people think? You want to believe you get the sun first? What do I care? The Chinese, the word of China in Chinese means Middle Kingdom. They're the center of the world. That is the Chinese view.
Yeah.
Anybody hate the Chinese? You want to Chinese? You think you're the center of the world? You're the center of the world. But if the Jews say they're chosen, you know why the Jews are hated for saying they're chosen? Because people believe it.
Ooh, that's good. Well, you know why people believe it?
Like
Because it's true. Because
That's
true.
right.
Dennis, we have 40 seconds left. Are you sanguine about the prospects of America pulling out of the death spiral in which we currently find ourselves?
I'm asked if I'm optimistic or pessimistic, and I'm flattered that you use the word sanguine with me, knowing that I would know what means optimistic. I've asked that all the time, and here is my answer. I have no use for optimism or pessimism. All I care about is, do you fight? Pessimism says don't fight because it'll turn out bad. Optimism says don't fight, it'll turn out good. I have no use for either. If you don't fight, then you have wasted your time on Earth.